Now we've added the sun, it's time to add the buttons down the bottom of the page and the information for each planet. So let's start with the planet closest to the sun, which is Mercury. Let's unlock that, as we're going to need to click into that to edit it. And we can't actually see that planet at the moment because we've got the sun in the way, so let's just hide the sun. We'll click on these two buttons there, and that's hidden the sun. We might as well hide all the other planets while we're there, so we can only see Mercury sitting in the middle. If we zoom in, so we can actually see Mercury there, what we need to do now is double click on Mercury. And that takes us into the Mercury SWF file, the Mercury movie. Now at this stage you'll notice that the layer name is layer 1, so we're going to rename that. Double click and rename it to Mercury. Now we're going to add a new layer, and we want that to be above Mercury, and we're simply going to rename this button. Now on this button layer we need to click into the first frame. We can zoom back out. What we need to do here is draw a rectangle towards the bottom of the stage where we want our button to be. Now if we want to change the colours, we can do. We can just click on the shape, change the colour down here to anything that's appropriate. So I'm going to change mine to that. We could also, if we've got the colour panel open up here, and we can find that if we go to Window and Colour Mixer, we can click on the fill type and go to bitmap and actually choose the planet that's appropriate to the button that we're editing here. So this would be Mercury, so we just choose Mercury from here, and you'll see that the button fill changes. However, for this tutorial we're going to stick with a solid fill. Now we need to make sure that the shape is selected, and we need to select F8 on the keyboard, and that will allow us to convert this shape to a symbol, and we need to convert it to a button, so make sure button selected. We're going to name this symbol Mercury _ BTN for button, make sure the registration is in the centre, and press OK. Now we have to double click into this to go inside the button. And you'll notice that when we go inside the button, the timeline changes from frames to states of the button. So up means just when the button is up in its normal state, over is when the mouse hovers over the button, down is when the button is clicked, and hit determines where the button activates. So to start with, let's add some text so that we can tell the user which planet this refers to. So let's insert a new layer in this button. We need to name these layers also. So we'll name this as background, and we'll name this layer as text. On the text layer, click in the up frame, and we just click on the text tool and add text to the button, which will simply say Mercury. Obviously you need to make sure that the colour of the text stands out from the button, so in this case we need to change it to something that stands out. If I declick the align to stage and then select both the text and the button, I can then align the text inside the button. To select two objects, we just simply select the first, then hold the shift button down and select the second, and that allows us to select two objects. So now we've got the text and the background, and this will show when the animation is loaded, as long as the user isn't hovering over the button with the mouse. So what we need to do now is to right click under the over state on the text layer and insert a frame, so the Mercury text is visible in the up and over layer. And we also need to do the same for the background, insert frame. So now when the user hovers over the button, the title will also display. At this stage we need to add a new layer, And on this layer, we drag it to the top. This layer will contain the information that we gathered earlier about the planets. So we need to draw another rectangle, select the rectangle tool. This rectangle is going to go directly underneath the Mercury button. And we need to add in here the information, as we said earlier, that we collated from the internet in the research. So let's use the text tool, and we can simply click down here, change the font to a size that's appropriate, which will be smaller than the button, and then we can start adding facts about this planet, which is Mercury. If you haven't already found out some facts about planet, the best place to go is to the internet, and a good website on the internet to find out information about the planets is this website here, www.sciencemonstor.com/astronomy/index.html. That will take you to this page, which gives you a list of all the planets. So the planet that I'm trying to find out more information for at the moment is Mercury, so I'll click on Mercury, and here we get a lot of information provided for us by this website. So we can start off with this statistic here, the average distance from the Sun, which is about 57,900,000 kilometres. So let's add that to our project. Click to add text. And if we just move that text into the right place, what we'll also need to do is change the font colour into something that stands out. I'll use this blue colour that's on the button, and from there I can keep adding more facts about Mercury so that the user can learn about the planet when they're watching the animation. Now the only thing is, I don't want that text to be displayed when the button is in its normal up state. I only want it to be displayed in the over state. So I'm going to click on this keyframe here and drag it to the over state. Now when I click on the up state, you'll notice that the text has gone from here, but then I click back on the over state and it reappears. I'll need to rename this layer, and I'll simply rename that as info. So the final thing I need to do is to actually tell the program which area the user can hover over to activate the button, and that's where this hit comes in. All we'll do is right click on the background layer and we'll convert that to a keyframe, and you'll see that this rectangle now appears under the hit state. The user will never actually see this state. This is purely for the program to define where the mouse can interact with the button. So now we can take that back to the beginning, and we can see this is how our button will function. If we click on mercury.swf to come out of that button, the final thing we need to do is to actually get the button to control the movie and to stop the planet from rotating when a user hovers over it. So if we make sure the button is selected, we click on it just once, and we need to open up the action script. So we open up the actions, click on there. First thing we need to do is to add a new item to the script, and we go to Global Functions, Movie Clip Control, and On. Now this is identifying what should happen when the mouse interacts with the animation. So on, roll over, so when the mouse rolls over, then need to click after this bracket, then click back on Add New Item, go to Global Functions, then Timeline Control. So when the mouse hovers over, we want the movie to stop, so we click Stop, and that's the first script that we've added. We then click onto a row underneath the closing bracket, and we add a new script, Global Functions, Movie Clip Control, On, this time roll out, so when the mouse rolls out, again we click after this bracket, and this time we want the timeline to play. And that's it for the action script on this button. So we can now close the actions down, come out of that by clicking on Scene 1, and you'll see that now we have this big blue square. The user won't see this, this just shows that now the Mercury movie includes both the actual planet and the button to control the planet and provide us with information. Let's unhide all the other objects. There we go. You can see the sun's back in. We'll save that again. And then we can publish. Go back to the folder. If we right click on the file, it will open with Internet Explorer. And there we go, we have our movie. And hopefully if we hover over the Mercury button, the planet stops and it gives us the information that we've typed into the button. When we hover out, the movie carries on.